some point.
He and Joe Biden have a lot in common in that they both tend to stick their foot in their mouths.
Yes.
So it just promises to be an interesting election, if for no other reason that we could see for the first time an election between Newt, Mitt, and Barack. Not a single name in there that would be your standard American name.
And Ramesh and Aastha names are also missing.
this time. Well, folks, this was another interesting article out of Yahoo News. You know, all this movement, the Occupy Wall Street movement, and the Republicans are really taking a beating about being this elite sector. So there was an article in the Yahoo News about how Republicans should adjust their messaging to be a little bit more centric and to invite more people into their realm. And it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
You know, they're being coached not to use the word capitalism, because capitalism implies that only the rich get richer. And they're being told, don't say that the government taxes the rich. Instead, tell them that the government takes from the rich. You know, these are very subtle points in marketing messaging. When you're in marketing, you learn how to adjust your tone and your words to come across differently, but this is the Republican Party having to do this.
They say those are job creators.
Exactly.
Taking from the job creators.
Exactly. Republicans should forget about winning the battle over the middle class. Instead of calling them middle class, they should start referring to them as hard-working taxpayers. Isn't that brilliant, folks?
We are so one.
Well, because that way you resonate with your audience as opposed to putting them into brackets, which is not what the Republicans want. And as you said, don't talk about jobs, talk about careers.
Yes.
Right? That's another longer term. Take out the word entrepreneur and instead put in job creator.
Yes.
Into your speeches. And don't call it government spending, call it waste. Because that way, you know, anything that the government does is waste. So I just think we don't think of these simple word changes in our everyday messaging to have such a psychological impact on who we are. But as you listen to these speeches, as you pay attention to what these candidates are saying, I think those of us who are really interested in this should also pay attention to the words because they mean so much.
By the way, there's a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. It's called Legislative Council. You would wonder, what do they do? Well, what do they do is they teach all of the legislator types, which means your county legislators, your city legislators, state legislators, even national. What do they have? They have a library full of laws that they want you to make sure you go home and enact them. And yeah, of course, again, like Republican-centric. Yeah, I'm sure there's one on the Democratic side, too. Complete legislation, all fully made. All you need to do is introduce it, and the unions or the Republican rich will come in and support you and get the legislation passed. I mean, this is what is cut and paste. That's what they're doing.
Well, I hope that the American public sees past some of this stuff and is smart enough to think on their own.
By the way, folks, you understand the harsh winter is around the corner. Remember the freaky blizzard around the
Halloween?
Yes. 2 million people in North America were out of electricity, not just for one day, for as much as a week.
And you would never expect it because it was so early in the season.
And you know the solution is so simple. Bury the cable. But who refuses to bury it? It's the utility companies. They know it's an expense. And so what they are doing, they go to the utility commissions and say, raise our rates so that we can do this. But you can't afford it. There's going to be billions and billions of dollars. And everybody has been actually taking up their spiel. All the legislators repeat the same thing. We can't force them. Let them do 30 miles a year, 40 miles a year, 100 miles a year. Folks, they have been giving this opinion for very long, but now the study has come out of Canada, by the way, and they're saying that no, because these guys have never done underground, other than they charge the client. For instance, anyone, has got 200 homes in a subdivision or even 20 homes in a subdivision, you never see wires hanging over there. They're all underground. But that's because the developers pay for it. So there's a suggestion in the Fortune magazine. The public commission cannot do it. Public doesn't want to pay for it. And these utilities are really grinding and they don't want to spend the money. So let's have federal government do it. President Barack Obama was coming out with his plan. This is a better plan because it's an investment that'll actually pay dividends, because imagine the number of people that cannot go to work or cannot go to school. Accidents galore in this particular time, and so sad when you have to sit with no light. I think this is a great suggestion by the Fortune magazine.
I wonder if this is somehow rolled or wrapped up into some of the investments he has proposed for things like the smart grid. You know, we have rolling blackouts sometimes when there's too much consumption during peak periods and times. Well, you know, some of that might be a result of the fact that you do have outages that occur that impact everywhere else, where if you had a more stable infrastructure supporting all of this, then you wouldn't necessarily have as many outages, and then those rolling blackouts would not happen. Yeah. So I have got to imagine that these kinds of improvements have to be built in somehow into these programs, but you don't hear about that kind of detail when these programs come out. That's the sad part.
It's just they feel that it's so much easier to put a ladder and fix it, instead of actually staying on the ground. And by the way, all these wires can have chips. Chips as accurately will tell you exactly where the problem is, so you can dig or go through the tunnels. I mean, let's face it, there are sewer lines where there are tunnels. You can actually see what's going through them. This is not a rocket science. This is about the lowest of low tech, and it'll employ a whole lot of construction and other trades in this business. I really think this is a great idea.
Folks, we received a wonderful email from one of our viewers in Chicago, Illinois.
Yes.
You know, he is exactly the kind of viewer we hope is watching Darshan, because he is informed, he knows his facts, and in fact, he was very quick to show us that he was well aware of some of these statistics and things that we regularly use in our program. You know, sometimes we're not the first with the news, but what we try to do is take these facts and figures and show them in support of a trend or a topic that is in the news or worthy of discussion. So, of course, he really liked our show in our format, and he found us by accident just flipping through the channels and said, hey, I enjoyed your show, and by the way, here are some other arenas where you can look to find other stories in these key areas. He has a business interest. So we wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Walter Kenzior and say thank you for watching our show. We hope that you'll continue to watch and send us your feedback.
Folks, do you know that Hollywood actually opens their movies in foreign countries first, before they even open here in the United States? In fact, the folks from Asia, Europe, Latin America get to see the Hollywood movies first, then even the crowd in Hollywood or here in the United States.
I wonder why that is. I got to imagine it's for two reasons. One, you get early buzz.
Yes.
Right? And that way you can kind of test market your product to see, did it succeed in these audiences? Does it have global appeal? And you know, it made me think of Mission Impossible. The new Mission Impossible that is coming out with Tom Cruise has an Indian actor in it.
That's right.
Has Anil Kapoor in it. And so, of course, where is Tom Cruise today? He's in India trying to market the movie to Indians.
That's actually, it's going to open in India 2 weeks before it will open here. And it will also open in Europe and everywhere else. Not only him, Steven Spielberg, his DreamWorks came out with a movie, if everybody knows, a cartoon character called Tintin. He's a world-known comic, but more in Europe. So they started the movie in Europe, and they have already sold $200 million worth of tickets. And of course, you know, U.S. Critics are
harsh,
vicious. I'm telling you, they can kill a movie. But right now, they know that India, China, you know, Europe, they appreciate a good technical...
They're still hungry for Hollywood movies.
Yes, that's right. And some of the figures that they gave in way of some of the movies that are played out in both locations, which is United States and outside. For instance, the movie Fast 5, foreign revenue was $416 million versus North American revenue, which is $210 million. Wow. I mean, that's double. Iron Man 2, $312 million in the United States and $311 million outside of the country. Thor, $181 million in America, $267 million outside. And Adventures of Tintin, which I just mentioned, is yet to open in America. It'll actually open on December 21. But so far, in foreign countries, it's already made $207 million.
I think another reason for this is because you have a lot of people now, especially in China, India, other places in the world, that have disposable income.
Yes.
And for them, going out to the movies is a real outing. It's a family outing. Whereas in the United States, it's not as much of an outing as it used to be. People are much more watching movies at home in their living rooms. They're not going out to theaters. So in some ways,